talk about the strategic significance of these islands. Now, Grant, this was proven during World War II when the Japanese took them, and it was the Guadalcanal, the Battle of Guadalcanal, if I'm not mistaken, was the turning point of the war in the Pacific when the Japanese started to be forced back to Japan. But had they been taken by the Japanese, Australia would have been cut off from its main ally, the United States, across the Pacific. Now, does that strategic significance still apply today?
Oh, definitely. Geography doesn't change, and the Chinese have studied World War II very well. And they recognize the mistakes the Japanese made, and one of them was not getting into the Solomon Islands fast enough and not getting into the Hebrides, Vanuatu and New Caledonia. Had they done that, the lines of communication, supply, the ability to conduct operations would have been just cut. And that's from the United States to Australia. Would have made it much harder for the Americans, actually, to launch their counteroffensive. So the Chinese recognized the mistakes the Japanese made, and such is Chinese sense of superiority that they figured, well, of course the Japanese made mistakes, so we're so much smarter, we're not going to make the same ones. And sure enough, they are sort of checking the doors on just about every place in the Pacific, every island of consequence and even very little consequence. And they're seeing where they've got an opportunity. They're pushing, looking to see where there's sort of receptiveness. And when they see an opportunity, they are taking it, and they see it in the Solomons, and they are just going all out.
Well, they've built a major port in the Solomons, haven't they? How big is that port, and how soon before they use it for their navy, do you think?
Well, they haven't actually built the port yet, but there's a couple that are in the works. But the Solomons has good natural harbors. One of them, of course, is Tulagi, famous from World War II. It's just really across the Iron Bottom Sound from Guadalcanal a bit. And these places could be very good sort of naval stations, even if it's not formally a base, but the ability to operate out of there. This would let them handle all sorts of things and serve as a very nice staging base. In fact, a few years ago, I think it was around 2019, the Chinese actually signed a deal with the government of Tulagi to basically lease the entire island to build a naval base. There was actually such a popular outcry that the Attorney General of Solomon Islands had to cancel the deal. But that shows you what the Chinese have in mind. And it's one step at a time. You keep pushing and you get your openings and take advantage of them. And the Solomons offer some good staging areas, good bases, both naval and air stations as well. Just as they did to the Japanese, and just as the Americans preempted the Japanese, and after a very hard battle, hard campaign, were able to sort of take it themselves and go back on the offensive.
Do you get the feeling that Australians are aware of how significant this threat is? I mean, you're in Australia now, you've been here for a while. Are we aware of how bad this is?
I think there's people who do. I'm not sure they get listened to very often. I'm not being glib about it, and that's sort of, we have that same problem, but there's plenty of Australians who do understand it, understand the strategic importance of these islands. They understand the dangers of China getting a foothold in these places. But I don't know that they get listened to, and I don't know if there is a government strategy to deal with this. It appears to be very well hidden. I would note from an American perspective that we effectively outsourced our efforts in Solomon Islands to Australia for about 30 years. That probably wasn't the best move we ever made. You go there and you kind of wonder what exactly were they doing for all this time, but there was a sense, well, I think somebody even said, well, it's our patch. We understand these people. Well, that's sort of like Americans used to go down to Mexico and think that everyone loved us. And we understood how to deal with Mexicans. You just give them some pesos. How wrong can you be?